Hey everybody, it's me, the one and only Cave Cat, here again with another exciting video. I'm sure that a lot of you out there remember when I talked about the 1980s Garbage Pail Kids cartoon for episode 8 of Cave Cat's movie and TV reviews. Well, not only that, but I briefly mentioned in that review how there's a new reboot series that's currently in production. According to Wikipedia, the show is being produced by Danny McBride and his company, Roughhouse Studios, in association with Topps and the Tornante Company. And another thing to point out is the fact that it's going to be released on Max once it gets completed. So for that, I will be talking about why I think that the Garbage Pail Kids cartoon reboot will, without a doubt, be successful. So anyway, to start off, you might recall in my Garbage Pail Kids review how I talked about how the show ended up getting the short end of the stick before it could air on CBS for the 1987 Saturday morning schedule, no thanks to the parents groups that protested against it for supposedly being nonconformative. Also, as I mentioned in that review, I completely disagree with what those parents groups said about the show because I don't think that it was ridiculing disabled people or glorifying violence like they claimed it was. I mean, yeah, the original cards were supposed to be gruesome, disgusting, and unorthodox, but at least the producers tried to tone down those aspects of the cards when they were adapting the cards for television. I mean, take a look at Ren and Stimpy. That show has quite an unimaginable amount of gross out humor, adult oriented situations, and rather risque jokes, yet it still got greenlit and aired on Nickelodeon back in the early 90s, even in spite of that. Granted, John Cristofalusi turned out to be a creep later on, but it should be expected that he would implement gross humor and jokes that a lot of kids would not get, and look how the show turned out. But back to the Garbage Pail Kids. I think it's very unfair the way the show got treated once it was completed, just because it got the shaft for being based on a series of gross trading cards. No animated show deserves that kind of treatment just because it's based on something that a lot of parents complained about for being rather gross and bizarre. But anyway, I'm sure that with the upcoming reboot series, that'll be different. I mean, think about it. In the past few decades, we've had quite a few animated kids shows that had quite a substantial amount of gross out humor, ranging from Ren and Stimpy, Cow and Chicken, Beetlejuice, The Ripping Friends, Two Stupid Dogs, Schnookums and Meat, Codename Kids Next Door, and several others. Heck, even SpongeBob SquarePants is guilty of this, especially in later seasons. Yeah, the original Garbage Pail Kids cartoon did try to use gross out humor like in the original cards, but the gross out humor didn't really stand out all that much, mainly because of the art style of the show, which I thought looked more Ruby Spears-ish in my opinion. I've got a feeling that the new reboot series will just absolutely revel in using gross out humor, much like the cards, but just try not to take it too far, like they did with that awful Ren and Stimpy Adult Party cartoon series that was spin off from the Ren and Stimpy show. I mean, it's okay to be gross sometimes, like what they did in the 1992 Addams Family cartoon produced by Hanna-Barbera, but the way that Ren and Stimpy Adult Party cartoon just completely added rather questionable scenarios and scenes that were just too gross for their own good proves that they took it too far, even more so than the original Ren and Stimpy series. I gotta say that I've not been this excited for a brand new animated series ever since VeggieTales in the House was first announced for Netflix back in early 2014. Though looking back at it now, that show isn't as good as I thought it was. But in my opinion, it's far from the worst thing that I've ever seen, even if it did contradict some things from the original VeggieTales series. But I feel that with the Garbage Pail Kids cartoon reboot, it'll capture the style of not just the original cards, but also the original 1987 series. However, I did hear that the new series is going to be a little bit different from the original series. Because, for one thing, as I've mentioned previously in my Muppet Babies review, Split Kid and Patty Putty are retained as main characters, but Elliot Mess, Clog Dwayne, and Terry Cloth have been replaced by Adam Baum, Wendy Winston, and Messy Tessie as main characters, according to the promotional image for the reboot series. In some ways, it's a little bit similar to how VeggieTales in the House featured the character of Ika Beezer as a replacement to Mr. Nezer from the original VeggieTales series, as I mentioned previously in my VeggieTales review. But hey, at least the Garbage Pail Kids reboot series had a more feasible reason for replacing some characters with others compared to DreamWorks' reason for doing so when they produced VeggieTales in the House, being that DreamWorks had a rule against interracial casting in any of their shows and movies, especially regarding the fact that Mr. Nezer was voiced by Phil Vischer doing an imitation of Ken Page's portrayal of Oogie Boogie from The Nightmare Before Christmas. But for the Garbage Pail Kids reboot, At least they had the foresight to replace some card characters that were featured in the original 1987 series with other card characters that were already established in the original card line from the mid 80s, unlike with the whole Ickabeezer situation for VeggieTales in the house. Another thing that I'm curious about is whether the reboot series will have the sketch comedy format that the 1987 series had. You know, where they had parody segments and short skits before the main segment featuring the main Garbage Pail Kids. Or if they'll go for the two shorts format featuring the main characters, or even the three shorts format, where they'll have two segments featuring the main characters and one segment featuring a different card character. Kind of similar to what they did in Garfield and Friends, where they had two Garfield segments and one US Acres segment, or even the 2020 Animaniacs series, which featured two Warner segments and one Pinky and the Brain segment. Again, there's not really much information about the reboot, but if more information does get leaked sometime in the future, I'd say that a lot of our questions will be answered by then. A lot of you might also recall that in the original 1987 series, the main Garbage Pail Kids were each voiced by child actors at the time, with the exception of Cray Summer, who was in her late teens at the time that the show was produced and was supposed to air on CBS. I don't know if the reboot series will have the main kids be voiced by current child actors like in the original series, or if they'll just have the kids be voiced by adult voice actors, like what happened in the Garbage Pail Kids movie, where they had the characters of Greaser Greg and Nat Nerd voiced by prolific voice actor Jim Cummings, who is the current voice of Winnie the Pooh and Tigger, though Cummings himself actually regretted being a part of the film. Although, if it were the latter, it'd be interesting to see which actors that the producers would get to voice the main characters, if they would actually be perfect for the roles, particularly Split Kit. In fact, I could probably see Split Kit being voiced by Cam Clark, who voiced Mr. Bogus, probably using a voice that's like a cross between his Mr. Bogus voice and his Freddy the Ferret voice from Barnyard and its spin off series Back at the Barnyard. Regarding the whole Max situation, I just hope that this show doesn't end up getting 86 before it gets completed, just like what happened with the 1987 series. We've already had quite a number of shows, whether they're live action or animated, get the axe before they were even completed and slated to air on Max, such as the Scoob Holiday Haunt special, or even that Scooby Doo and the Mystery Pup series, which was basically supposed to be a preschool series based on the Scooby Doo franchise. It's too bad that those projects ended up getting scrubbed before they could even see the light of day, no thanks to the whole Warner Brothers Discovery debacle that's currently going on right now. And don't even get me started on the whole mess involving the state of that Coyote versus Acme film. However, with that one, at least someone was able to save a copy of that film even in spite of it being under threat of being deleted. In fact, from what I heard, Toy Story 2 was nearly deleted after one of the animators accidentally entered the wrong code which deleted the files. But fortunately, one of the crew members at Pixar had a backup copy of the film while she was on her maternity leave. If there is a slim chance that the Garbage Pail Kids cartoon reboot does end up getting canceled and deleted, then let's hope that Danny McBride or other producers working on the show was able to save a copy of the episodes that they're working on. The Garbage Pail Kids deserve to have their own animated series to be seen in the public, to make up for not getting the chance to do so back in 1987. Despite the fact that I wasn't too interested in the Garbage Pail Kids cards at first, prior to my deciding to give the original series a chance, at least they had an interesting style for being a card line that's supposed to be parodying the Cabbage Patch Kids dolls. In fact, speaking of the Cabbage Patch Kids, they did get their own animated Christmas special back in 1984, which was animated by Ruby Spears, and it was also slated to get an animated series, but Xavier Roberts, the creator of the Cabbage Patch Kids dolls, rejected the proposal. Not to mention that when the Garbage Pail Kids cards were first produced, Roberts actually ended up suing Topps for copying the design of the Cabbage Patch Kids, which prompted Topps to use a slightly more cartoony style for the cards when Roberts won the case. But at least according to the promotional image for the reboot series, it looks like they're returning to using the Cabbage Patch Kids design. And I've got a feeling that the reboot series is going to be animated in CGI, much like other reboot series of other existing properties, like Garfield, Alvin and the Chipmunks, and even Scooby Doo with that Scoob film. It's like I mentioned before in my video talking about the Garfield movie, and even in my California Raisin Show review. Sometimes the art style of a franchise can either look really good or really bad if rendered in 3D animation, and even though some longtime franchises can look really bad if they're animated in CGI, others can actually be really good if they're animated correctly in CGI. It shouldn't be any surprise that despite all of the flack that the original Garbage Pail Kids cartoon got back when it was slated to be released, there were a lot of people that were actually looking forward to seeing it premiere on CBS. And you can imagine how upset a lot of them were once those parents groups forced CBS to remove the show from their schedule. However, to be fair, even if the show hadn't gotten removed from the schedule, I remember reading that quite a few CBS affiliates in some states made the decision to abstain from airing the show on their stations. So either way, it would have been a win-lose situation for CBS even if they hadn't caved into those parents groups. But I've got a feeling that with the Reboot series, it's going to be different because it's being aired on a streaming service instead of on a network channel. I mean, yeah, there have been cases where some streaming services have removed certain shows and movies from their websites, like when Netflix removed VeggieTales in the House back in 2022, before also removing VeggieTales in the City a year later in 2023. Not to mention the whole situation with Max completely purging the classic Looney Tunes shorts from the service as a flimsy excuse for a tax write off. I don't have Max, but it just upsets me when these companies make these stupid decisions just for the sake of saving money. If the movie and TV companies would actually have better CEOs who actually know what they're doing, then they wouldn't be making these dumb decisions that have been earning the ire of a lot of viewers the world over. And now we get to the final reason why I think that the Garbage Pail Kids reboot cartoon will be successful. Even in spite of how outlandish and over the top the concept is, I really think that the reboot will take a page from the original series and have the main Garbage Pail Kids get into various adventures, even utilizing ideas that have not been used in the original 1987 series. Because while the original series didn't have much gross out humor like the cards did, at least it had some pretty weird yet interesting episode ideas, such as traveling into storybook land to search for Jack and Jill, ending up in a parody of The Wizard of Oz, and even ending up in an undersea western setting. Now, granted, if any of you have been exploring my DeviantArt page, you would notice that I wrote my very own fan-made second and third season of the 80s cartoon, currently in the midst of writing a fan-made fourth season, in an attempt to try and recapture the style of the 80s cartoon, just to make up for its absence from network television back then. In fact, you can actually check out the links to the folders for the fan-made second, third, and fourth seasons of the original Garbage Pail Kids cartoon in the description down below. It may not be my best attempt to try and give the 80s cartoon additional seasons had it aired on CBS, but I really feel that the original cartoon deserved much better than this, so it's a good try nonetheless. But with the cartoon or even the original cards, I mean, sure, it does have a lot of connotations with people that have mental or physical disabilities, but like I said before, I'm a mentally disabled person with Asperger's syndrome, and I'm not one bit ridiculed by the original series like those parents groups claim. And also, if Danny McBride and his company play their cards right, then the Garbage Pail Kids cartoon reboot might end up being their ace in the hole when it airs on Max. A lot of kids these days might really find themselves invested in the concept of a group of kids with strange physical appearances or anomalies going on different adventures, all while helping other people in trouble. So it should be as simple as that. Well, there you have it, folks. Now you know why I think that the Garbage Pail Kids reboot series will be more successful than the 80s series. I know that I keep saying this, but if you really want to check out more videos from me, be sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos that'll come your way. So until next time, later!